I invited you to my channel. Just I want you to share with us your stories and views on your life. Okay, are you ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
Could you please briefly introduce yourself first?
So my name is Dmitri. I'm just starting my master's degree at the University of Victoria, and I'm in mechanical engineering. And yeah, I've been living in Victoria for maybe 7 years now, something around there.
Are you indigenous?
No, I'm not. I was actually born in Russia and moved here when I was 3 years old.
Okay, so what brought you come to Canada?
Well, for me, it was more so that my parents wanted more opportunities, more job security, and just better political situations. So they moved to Canada, and I'm very happy that they made that choice, and I'm happy to be in Canada now.
And since you started your university,
Yep.
you moved to UVic.
Yep.
And do you like Victoria?
I do like it in Victoria. I think there's things I do like and don't like about it. Victoria is a very beautiful city. It's pretty easy to get around in that it's very small.
Yeah.
There's lots of nature, lots of beautiful nature around.
Yeah.
But sometimes it feels too small. I want better restaurants and I want more things to do. So that's one thing that I don't like about it as much.
Okay, yeah. But small city, no matter where we want to go, it's very convenient, right?
Yeah.
So you just mentioned your major is mechanical engineering.
Yep.
Yeah. So there are several factors you considered before choosing major.
Yep. So I actually did my undergraduate degree in computer science and worked in a lab for a few years before deciding to go into mechanical engineering. And a lot of that came down to the jobs I was looking at.
Yeah.
And a lot of the things that I like to do. I like to do a lot of hands-on work. I like to work with physical experiences and physical products. So computer science was sometimes difficult for that. And for getting a job, I really need to get a degree. My computer science degree wasn't always going to be helpful in the jobs I was applying for. So that's why I decided to do the master's.
Oh, I also heard that the people with a computer science degree, it's very hard for them to find a job after graduating.
It's definitely a very difficult time right now. The last few years especially.
Yeah.
The industry has changed a lot. When I was first going to school, computer science was probably one of the best degrees to get.
Very hot.
Yeah, everyone wanted someone in
Yeah.
computer science, everyone needed coding, but things have changed a lot in the last couple of years. Part of it is AI, part of it is just generally structures, big companies reorganizing and laying off a lot of people. So it went from being a very good degree to have to still a good degree, but much harder to find entry-level jobs. There's still a lot of higher up jobs, but not a lot of jobs for just out of university. So it's hard once you're graduating.
Cool. Welcome to mechanical engineering.
A lot of the same.
Okay. I also heard that the student in Canada is quite fortunate. They don't have too much homework after school hours before university. Do you think so?
I think so. I think it does depend on certain programs and certain schools that you're in. So if you're taking IB, for example, there's more of a course load for that. But compared to a lot of other countries, Canada does not seem to have a very high workload. Even my parents telling me about when they went to school in Russia and how much homework they had to do, like every weekday, every weekend. And I wasn't the most studious student. I didn't work as hard as other students, but even then, I think in Canada, I think it's much easier to get through school and get through classes.
Yeah.
It's still hard to get like high 90s and very good grades, but just to get through classes is, I think, generally not that much work.
Okay, so I'm wondering how students in Canada get access to a prestigious university based on their grade?
Yeah, a lot of it is a lot of it is based on grades and the grades that you get. And
Yeah.
then also a lot of universities seem to have a sort of ranking system. So different high schools also have different, like, some high schools are very good high schools. And so if you get like a 90 in a very good high school, this means a lot more than if you get like a 90 in some small high school. So the grades matter, but also which school you go to matters. And certain provinces in Canada also have standardized testing. So you do tests at the end of the year, and everyone in the province does the same test. So you can kind of know better that the grades that a student got were actually how well they knew the material.
Grades is very important, right?
Yes.
So when you're a student in high school, every study you should be self-motivated.
I think it is pretty self motivated. Most teachers will not kind of push you or force you to do very well.
Yeah.
It's usually up to you to get good grades and put the time in. And if you get like low grades, if you get 70s or something,
Yeah.
the teachers won't say anything, or they might say something to your parents, but they won't say much, and it's kind of seen as okay, it's up to you. If you want to do well, if you want to do like get good grades, then that's something that you have to do.
Okay. So in your memory, the teacher in the schools, they prefer to criticize or encourage you to do it better?
I think there is a certain amount of encouragement. I think generally they will give encouragement and like try to help people out if they want to be helped. But if a student is doing poorly, I think most teachers won't do too much, where they might talk to the student, they might tell them like, hey, you're not doing well, I can help you in these ways. But if the student doesn't want to learn, then
Yeah.
they probably will not.
I also heard too much about the education of Canada is that no matter which kind of universities or colleges you enter, you can find a good job after graduating. You can receive a very good salary.
Yeah.
Is right?
I think it depends a lot on kind of a lot of different factors, where I feel like you can get a good salary through lots of different paths.
Yeah.
I think if you want a very, very high-end job, if you want to work at like a very big, important company, then being at a good university and doing well matters. But I think you don't have to go to a very high-level university to get a good job. But those top 5% of jobs, or top 1% of jobs, the very, very like top jobs, then you do really need to do well. And depending on the degree as well. In computer science, for example, one of the things that matters the most isn't so much how you do in school, but it's the projects you work on. So if you show that you've done projects on your own, if you've developed different things, then that matters a lot. And school matters, but what you're able to do outside of school matters even more in a lot of cases.
Okay, so the people who graduate from a prestigious university, they will get a higher possibility to get a good job, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
if someone is reviewing a lot of resumes and they're very similar, like if they have 300 applications, but one person is at a very good university, they just get bumped up.
Okay. I heard that many Canada urban stop providing the financial support to the kids once they enter university.
Yeah.
Is it real?
Yeah, it's, I would say, very dependent person to person.
Yeah.
I luckily was able to get help from my parents for university, but I know a lot of people and a lot of friends who were not able to get help. And generally, there's systems where you can get loans from the province. So you take out money, and depending on the province, depending on where it's coming from, in some cases there's no interest. so you can slowly pay it back over time. But yeah, it's definitely the case for a lot of people where they end up taking out loans or taking part-time jobs to be able to pay for university.
Okay, so this phenomenon is from Canada culture or just due to different family background, maybe rich or poor, like that?
I think it depends. I'm not sure if it's specifically a factor in Canadian culture or it's kind of a mix of things. I think part of it as well is that Canada and United States both have much more expensive university systems than a lot of other places in the world. In many places you can get a university degree and not have to pay or pay much less. Sometimes the government even pays you to be going to university and gives you a stipend even during your undergraduate degree. Yeah, I think in most cases it is quite expensive just in North America in general. University is expensive, so I think that's definitely a big factor in it. And I think in general, I feel like culture in North America is less like families are less close and less tight.
Why?
This is just from my experience and people I know, but there's quite the same level of like family closeness in a lot of North American families as opposed to certain other cultures, and that it's less of this close, tight-knit community.
Okay, got it. For the financial support from government you mentioned, I checked the government website. I found that the maximum kid can get financial support around 700 per month.
And
yeah, it's pretty good.
But it's not enough to like
support,
rent anywhere here is so
yeah.
much more expensive than that.
Yeah, more kids, more benefit.
Yeah,
right?
That's true.
Have you ever visited your United States?
Yes, I've visited the United States quite a few times. Yellowstone National Park is very beautiful. It's a great place. Bryce Canyon, also very wonderful. I've been to Las Vegas, and there's a lot of climbing around there. The climbing there is very good.
Yeah.
San Francisco is also very beautiful.
Do you think there are any main differences between United States and Canada?
I think there are differences, but I think the United States is often more conservative and more liking of guns, and there's kind of some stereotypes there, but it does feel like people act slightly differently, but there is also a lot of similarities as well. And for example, Victoria and Seattle, they're very close together and they feel very similar.
Yeah.
Whereas Victoria and Quebec, for example, are very different places, even though they're both in Canada.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of differences inside of Canada, and then also a lot of differences in the United States. If I'm going to Texas, it's going to be very different from Victoria. So yeah, depends a lot place to place. There have been times that I've felt pretty unsafe in the United States.
Yeah.
I think I'm not used to people being able to carry guns, people being able to carry knives, and in Canada
drugs.
You're not allowed to do that.
And I heard that the drug abuse is very severe in the United States.
Depending on the city, but even in Canada, like there's certain areas in Vancouver that have a lot of drug use and are kind of not the safest areas. And then in the United States as well, like there are certain cities where there's a lot of drug use issues, and
I heard that even the same position, if you are working in United States, you will get a much higher salary there. So if in the near future, after graduation, there is a good job offer in the United States, do you prefer to working there? Or
I think it is usually the case that, in the US you can get much more money for the same positions, and houses cost a lot less. But I think I would prefer to live in Canada, even knowing that. A lot of it is just the political situations in the United States. A lot of the issues coming up right now in the United States are scary to be watching, and depending on the state as well, some states I would not want to live in. Some states it would be okay.
So which state you would like to go?
That's a good question. I mean, I think like Washington seems to be more safe and stable. I don't know a lot about which different states are doing what, but yeah, I feel like there are certain states where it seems much more dangerous, and the political
Okay.
situation seems much worse,
Yeah,
where
yeah.
you don't really know what's going to happen with the politics. I do feel like Canada lines up more with the values I have and the people that
More
I like
peaceful.
to be around. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I think if there was a very good job offer in the right place, I might take it, but I would much prefer to stay in Canada.
Yeah, I also think Canada is more peaceful.
Yeah, I think most of the time on the streets it's pretty safe in Canada, and
Yeah, yeah. Even at midnight,
yeah,
I can walk alone on the street. I don't need to worry about some dangerous.
but
Yeah.
still it depends on, there's certain areas even in
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Victoria that
yeah.
I wouldn't walk around at night. And
Oh, you mean downtown, right?
yeah, some parts of
Okay.
downtown, um, Victoria, Vancouver, you definitely still have to be
Careful.
safe and careful,
Yeah.
but I think generally the risk is not very high.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I think so. Have you ever been to China or Asian countries?
I've never been to China. I really want to go at some point, but I have been to Thailand and Singapore. Singapore is such a big city. Everything is so technologically advanced,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and there's tons of very advanced and like very large cities in Thailand. But the
Yeah.
places where I was at in Thailand were very small, very like
Mm.
little local areas. So I think my experience in them was very different. And I wish I was able to see more of Singapore, but yeah, both very different, but
Okay.
both very nice
Yeah.
places.
If you have a chance to go on a exchange program
Yeah.
working in China,
Mm.
would you take it?
It's hard to know because I think it would be difficult for me to be like, I think I'm not very good at like learning new languages. Um, and I think have a hard time adjusting to like big changes like that. So
Yeah.
I think it would be difficult for me to like go and study abroad for like a year or for many months, but I think it would also be a very good experience. My girlfriend is here, and
Yeah.
so yeah, I think it would be hard to do, but I think it would be a very nice experience too.
You mean the short-term study in China for you may be more acceptable?
Yeah, yeah, I think if it was a shorter term, I think that would definitely work better for me.
Mm.
But in some ways, I think just visiting and going on vacation would be.
Yeah. Nowadays, China government has a policy for Canadians. You don't need to have a visa. You
Okay.
can stay around 144 hours. You are welcome to China have a trip.
Yeah,
I do believe that you will have an unforgettable journey.
I think it would be very
Yeah,
fun.
yeah. Welcome. What do you know about Chinese culture or students? Any stereotypes or surprise?
I guess a thing that you had kind of brought up before in terms of the different schooling systems, I feel like it's definitely a stereotype, but that a lot of Chinese students are very, very good at school, spend a lot of time at school, and do very well.
Legend?
Yeah. And then I had a lot of Chinese and Korean friends in high school,
Mm.
and I think just it felt like for many of them it was kind of
the second generation, right? Chinese.
yeah.
Okay.
Um,
Maybe it's a little different.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a difference between people who are coming for like university and like
Yeah.
just coming.
Yeah.
But even then, I feel like many of them shared their experiences of their families really wanting them to do well in
Yeah.
school, excel academically, and excel in other areas. Yeah, many of my friends played kind of stereotypically either piano or violin or guitar,
Okay.
and did very well at that as well. So yeah, I feel like those are kind of, in terms of studies and academics, probably the things that come out the most commonly and that I've seen the most in my experiences.
Do you like growing in this kind of family?
I think I definitely grew up in a background that's more similar to that, where, yeah, I think my parents definitely wanted me to do well in school, wanted me to
yeah.
be educated, and I know some of my friends who are Canadian and like their family has been in Canada for longer, had many generations of it. I know a lot of people have a more relaxed approach to like the kids can do kind of whatever they want, get whatever grades they want, and
Yeah.
I think there's good and bad to both approaches. I think it's very different though.
It seems like Russian culture, similar with China culture, right?
Yeah, kind of certain dynamics feel similar.
You told me that you have a partner, right?
Yes, I do.
How did you meet? Are there any romantic stories behind it?
It was not a very exciting story for it, unfortunately, but
Yeah.
we met just through a dating app.
Dating app? Which
yeah.
app?
Tinder.
Oh, Tinder.
Yeah.
It's very popular in Canada.
It's definitely, I think, the most common dating app in Canada.
Oh,
We
beautiful.
went on a few dates and just got to know each other, talked, and grabbed some coffee, and then
Okay.
started to get to know each other more, and then kind of started
Oh, okay.
dating after that.
Oh, so how do you often meet each other?
Well, right now we live with each other, and
Oh.
have been living with each other for a while, so
Oh, okay, cool.
yeah.
Okay. Take care of your body. Do you think there are any barriers to getting married in your culture?
That's a good question. I think I would say it's probably more person to person dependent.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like there's a lot of barriers for me, I guess, in terms of marriage. Yeah, I've heard many friends kind of express that, like, in their cultures or in their families, it's somewhat difficult. Like, there's certain expectations that
Yeah.
parents have, that families have, and yeah, I don't feel as strongly towards that. I don't feel like there is many barriers for me.
Okay, so I'm not sure whether you know that in China, if two guys want to get married, personally, the man should provide a bride price. This money is a big amount of money individually used to manage their own family after marriage.
Yeah.
And generally, the parents want their kids to marry with people who has a similar family background.
Mhm.
Is that similar in Canada?
I think that's still often the case. There's not generally, or not that I know of, I haven't heard of, you said that there's like a price, like there's a payment that you, so that's not a thing that like I've heard people doing here, but I think a lot of people still have, whether it's for themselves or whether it's their family, but I think people still feel that they want their partner to get married to someone with similar financial backgrounds, similar political background, and lots of other factors, maybe similar cultural background as well. I think for most people's families, it's not a very major concern, but I think it depends a lot person to person. Some families, some cultures may still care about it a lot.
Okay. Is that mandatory for a man to buy a house to marry a woman or marry a girl?
No, I think in Canada it's definitely quite even and becoming more even in terms of like how many men versus how many women are working.
Oh,
And
yeah.
there's a lot of women in high up professional positions, and I feel like there's less of a specific incentive where men have to do like purchasing the house and purchasing an apartment. But I think that's still something that exists, not to the same amount, but I think it's still there. Like, if you're going on a date, there's often the expectation that, like, the man will be the one that pays.
Okay.
And so there's a little bit of it, but for marriage, I don't think it's. I think
Okay.
a lot of the time people will try to both pay for it,
Or
or
rent a
like,
house?
or renting a house, or
Okay.
try to split it in some way. If one person is making more money, they may pay more for it. It should be more even, or do it more evenly. It's become so expensive to have a house in Canada
Okay.
that, like, I think in a lot of cases you just couldn't afford a house alone.
Okay.
Like, you sort of have to be together to be able to afford one house.
Okay.
In Victoria, for example, like, very, very cheap houses are often $1.2 million,
Okay.
and that's
Got it.
very low end. So the housing is just very, very expensive.
Okay. It means that certain people can afford a house alone. So if they consider owning a house as a requirement, they cannot find a partner, right?
Yeah,
So-
I think if you try to find someone that will be able to buy a house by themselves, there's very few people who will be able to do that.
So enjoying life is more important rather
Yeah,
than a house.
you're not going to get a house, so you may as well enjoy life.
Okay, yeah. A lot of American TV shows we watched in China, it seems like a lot of American girls are pretty open to sex,
Mhm,
including the one-night stands.
mhm.
Is that real in your experience in Canada?
I think in a lot of ways, I think like for movies and shows, that's like interesting and like a thing that they can show in movies to be like different and exciting.
Oh, that's negative.
But I think it's also exaggerated in a lot of ways, and I think each person is very different. I think some people are very open and yeah, very open to having sex more casually, but other people are much more kind of careful and protective about that, and like I think there's a whole range of everyone in between where some people will want to wait for marriage and only ever be with one person, and other people are happy to like enjoy this with however many people they want. And yeah, I think there's a huge range of
Okay, so depends on your observation. Just really people like that.
I think there's like I guess it depends on what you consider to be very like open about it and what you consider to be not very open about it. But I wouldn't say that there's a lot of people who are like sleeping with a new person every day or something. Like I think that's very much a over exaggeration for shows, and I think some people do feel that way, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I don't think it is the common thing to do.
Yeah, I also think that the TV shows want to make their program more attractive to exaggerated reality.
Yeah.
What does success mean to you?
I think for me, what I want from life and what I see as I want to feel good about the work I'm doing. I want to put things into the world that I think are like positive. I want to be doing something good for the world.
Oh,
and
you are very huge dream.
Maybe not for the whole world, but like even if I can help a few people out, I think that's a great thing. There are certain financial things that I would like to be able to do, but I would say there's not a certain amount of money I want to have. There's not a certain amount of like a position I want from work. I think I want money in the sense of like being able to travel is very nice.
Oh, okay.
I like to be able to work on hobbies and be able to do these different things in my life. I like cars, and I feel like having a car I can work on and enjoy is nice. I don't think I'll ever feel better making more money. I don't think I'll feel more successful if I'm making more money just because of that.
Is that means that you already have a lot of money, so you don't care about the money?
I feel like it would be nice to have more money for sure. I think after a certain point, like there's
I think so.
a certain extent that like, because right now as a student, it's hard to go on like vacations and have a car that I like, be able to afford like nice meals. But as long as I'm like, if I'm able to do those things, then I feel like I'm able to be happy. And because you could be making a lot of money but have no time for anything, not be able to talk with friends, not be able to do these things, and that's not a life that I want. I think I want to have that time. I want to be able to be creative and have the rest of my life also happening.
Okay, I'm very glad to hear that your dream is to make contribution to the world rather than make too much money. Yeah, you are the first guy I heard that. Yeah,
I'm also the first guest, but happy.
Yeah, it's so funny. I want to catch up one question.
Yep.
Do you have any suggestions for Chinese students who want to study abroad in Canada?
Yeah. I do feel like, not just for Chinese students, I feel like for a lot of communities, or for a lot of different cultures and areas, especially in certain Canadian universities, I feel like it's easy to find communities where everyone is sharing the same cultural background and everyone is sharing similar experiences. And I feel like that's definitely something that's very positive, and I think it's very good. It can also be helpful in a way to, if you're wanting to experience a culture, experience a country fully, I think trying to meet people kind of not just from a certain background, but I think a thing that's amazing about Canada is there's people from so many different backgrounds, and just being open to meeting people from a very wide range of different backgrounds is really great.
Okay.
And I think that applies to everyone.
Yeah, so in one word, you encourage them to open themselves to fit into local culture and not just stay in the comfort zone with the people from their home country, right?
And I think it depends on what you're looking for as well out of your experience studying here. But I feel like if you're wanting to experience Canada, I think that's one of the very amazing things that Canada has to offer. And I would give that same advice to people living in Canada as well, is there's so much value in like all the different cultures that Canada has and brings together.
Yeah.
So no matter what background someone has, I think it's good to be able to share the different experiences, the different cultures, and yeah, I think that's probably one of the best experiences in Canada that has both good and bad factors, but I think it's something that feels special to me. And
I think your suggestion is valuable, so I need to help me to fit into local life.
yeah,
Thank you.
for sure.
Is there anything you'd like to tell your future self from now on, 10 years?
I think a good thing I always need to be sure of and check back with myself is just to take my time, to take it easy and enjoy what's currently around me, enjoy the people in my life, enjoy like all the different experiences I have in my life. Sometimes I can get too focused on things that aren't working well or things that are problems, or get too focused on like work and projects. So I think making sure that I take my time and really appreciate the things around me, really appreciate the little things as well, like the fact that we're in a beautiful garden.
Yeah. I also
very
think
great.
this is a beautiful garden. I plan to end this interview as your last question. As you mentioned, you're a creative person.
Yeah.
So could you please share us the creative things you made something about that?
I think a lot of the work I do right now is related to design and 3D design. I also like photography. And but yeah, I feel like the biggest thing is I like doing all kinds of design work, whether it's fixing things, whether it's designing. I enjoy designing earrings. Right now I'm working on designing a clock or designing lamps, and yeah, it's something that I really enjoy working on.
You definitely come here to a
Hello.
designer. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, that's all.
Thank you for the interview.
Yeah, do you have any questions for me?
What do you feel like you've taken away from your time in Canada, and what feels different to you? What feels unique?
Oh yeah, since I came to Canada September of last year, I was feel very valuable things that in Canada almost everyone is peaceful. When I'm walking on the road, no matter the people I know a lot, they will smile to me and say hi to me, and it's very friendly. I think every day, almost every day, I can see the blue sky and the white cloud.
Yeah.
It's pretty good, and the temperature here is pretty good.
Yeah, I feel like Victoria has a very nice.
Yeah, I like here.
Yeah. Are there things that you haven't liked as much, or things that you felt that that you don't enjoy as much about Canada?
The people here are very polite, very friendly. So on the other hand, it's very hard to have a very deep conversation. Yeah, because some things maybe refer to privacy. So we don't want to engage too much.
Yeah.
So I would like not to disturb others.
Yeah.
Yes, it's totally different.
People are very cautious and careful.
Yeah.
I think so as well. I feel that there are definitely times where everyone tries to be very polite, but it feels like it does create that distance, like you said, where I think there's a lot of topics and discussions that people I think could be good to have, and yeah, that's a very good point, I think.
Yeah. Okay, that's all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Okay.